Welcome back to A Celtic State of Mind. I'm Paul John Dykes, and today I am delighted to be joined by Jim Orr and Lloyd Patrick Jepson for Friday's instalment of the Acsom Bulletin, where for the next 60 minutes we will be talking all things Celtic. Lloyd, you are sporting a phenomenal top. Tell me a wee bit about that. Why are you wearing that one today?
I'm wearing this today. Obviously, it was the same shirt that got worn on Sunday's game with the Celtic select side against St Rochs for the centenary match. And also, this is the first time I've worn it, but also it's James McGorry's anniversary, his death today as well. So I thought it was very poignant to wear this today.
I like that. It's very touching, Lloyd. And as you quite rightly said, for anyone who's not heard this over the last 4 or 5 broadcasts, where guys like myself and JP and James and Jerry have been absolutely buzzing about what happened at the weekend, we decided for the St Rochs centenary game, and as Lloyd says, it is the anniversary today of the passing of the greatest goal scorer in British football history, we decided to wear the jersey that was worn the last time James McGrory managed the club in 1965, before, of course, Jock Stein came on the scene and did all right for a few years. And that strip was, in fact, the Shamrock jersey. That's why the team was wearing it. Before your time as a football fan, Jim, but a very vintage and classy-looking jersey, I'm sure you'll agree.
Aye, in terms of doing the research for Brendan like Bertie, it's all about me, obviously. That was, you said, Jimmy McGoy's last game before Jock Stein took over. So, yeah, they won 3-2 against Kilmarnock. So, I know the facts of the matter. Yeah, I'm surprised they haven't brought that back in some way, shape or form, because it certainly, I mean, I'm not around, unlike yourself, Paul, I'm not a kind of jersey file, if you would call that a jersey phobe. Is there a technical term for that?
A jersey file?
A jersey file, I'll take that.
No, it's like a Franco file. Is that a word?
I'll take it. That is now.
It is now, aye.
Right, okay, I've invented a new word. Okay, a jersey file. Because I'm not a jersey file, I don't pay a lot of attention to jerseys, but it's a lovely jersey, and I caught the game last week on a live stream. Fantastic achievement, guys. Well done, Paul, John, everyone else, and James and JP were exceptional commentators, so we need to get them back to do some sort of event, because they were very good.
They were exceptional, and what I would say to anyone out there who might be inspired by the St Rochs game or were planning anyway to do some kind of charity game, give us a shout, because that was really a trial for us. We'd never done a full game live. We've seen it as an opportunity to put it out there to the masses. Obviously, it's a small wee park, and only around 900 to 1,000 people were in there. Sold out within 48 hours. We've now had 30,000 people watching it on the YouTube channel. Yeah, I totally agree, Jim. The commentators were fantastic. It's a much harder job than it looks and sounds, by the way, to keep that whole thing going, particularly through the breaks. But I thought they'd done a great job. If you do plan to do anything in terms of charity, give us a shout and we'll cover it. We'll be happy to cover that on the Acsom channel to give it a good bit of coverage and exposure. We are going to be speaking here about Brendan Rodgers in a big way over the next 55 minutes or so. We're going to be talking about the international break, what that has provided Celtic with. Has it provided Rodgers with any dilemmas? And of course, the big game on Sunday. 1 year since VAR was introduced. Lloyd, are we going to be talking about VAR on Sunday night again?
I hope to God not, because I've just had enough of it now. I wish the whole thing would get scrapped. It's becoming a nonsense in football.
It's a definition of madness.
Level.
Sorry, but it's just the definition of madness. What's the definition of madness, Paul?
Continuing to do the same thing and expecting a different result. I'm paraphrasing, of course.
Correct. And that's, to me, that's VAR. I mean, we keep doing the same thing. I mean, it'll never be perfect. And I've said before, the VA part of it is really, really good. You can't argue with the VA part. It's the R part of it. If it was me, I would bin the R part of it. There's a Proclaimer song, throw the R away. There you go. So keep the VA, because that's good. Because if you'd have said this 30 years ago, that a referee could actually have video assistance, you think that's science fiction. And it's the fact that we don't know what they're checking and why they're not checking certain things. So it is absolute madness to leave it to somebody who's sitting in a studio outside the ground to dictate to a referee, you may want to look at that, don't look at that, look at this, don't look at that. So it will always be flawed, and it'll continue to be flawed. And as I said, I would just give the referee the chance to make his own decision. And I suppose I was thinking about that all day, that maybe that's even flawed, because if you leave it to the referee and he doesn't check some things, he might get slaughtered for getting it wrong. And if he checks too many things, you're thinking you're not very competent, pal. And what I've said before on the podcast, if anyone is listening with any power, I would go back to the way they do it in tennis. I would give each manager 3 appeals. And then you know we are, So you've got 6 big decisions in the game. And if you get more than 6 big decisions in any one game, that's a bit odd. Give them an appeal, So Celtic have a chance, looks like a penalty, but we appeal. We appeal the penalty kick, stop the game, check the penalty kick, appeal unsuccessful. Referees mic'd up. Celtic appeal, penalty kick, looked at it, the side, no, I'm not giving it. Unsuccessful appeal, and actually lost an appeal. And you put it to the managers, because the people with the biggest amount to lose are the managers. The managers get sacked on losing games of football. So it's in their interest, and what you get after every single game, and that's why it's madness, is managers are coming on and saying, I don't know why that happened. I don't know why he didn't check that. Scotland game, Spain game, was that last week? 2 weeks ago now. Madness. Utter and complete madness. And the fact that the SFA didn't ask for a recording, spineless leadership. What we got to lose by saying, just let us hear it, because it was so inconsistent. And that's what it says about VAR. There's no transparency, there's no accountability, and there's no responsibility, and there's no consistency now.
No.
And it's a shambles. So somebody has to do something. And even if you just were to try it out in the League Cup, just try something different, because I'm assuming that you can choose to have VAR or not to have VAR. And if you can do that, surely you can tweak it a wee bit and say, well, you know what? This bit's quite good. Maybe let's just keep that wee bit there. But we're going to bin that bit. But the fact you've got somebody, like us sitting here, if you're a VAR, you're sitting watching something, say, by the way, Willie Collins, you want to stop a game, pal? And maybe look at that. It's madness. Utter and complete madness. And we don't know why they're doing it. And we don't know why they're stopping games. And they're picking certain incidents. And this is going to happen again and again and again. And it's, as you said there, that's the definition of madness. When you repeat the same thing and expect a different outcome, it's not working. It's plain. It's not working. But there's good bits of it. The offside bit is a good bit of it. We might not like the fact that he's slightly offside, but if he's offside, he's offside. Or somebody trying to keep the ball in play and it's a fraction out. Hey ho, that's an objective thing. But when you bring subjectivity into it and you let somebody not at the stadium, just sitting with a cup of tea like yourself, Paul, thinking, that doesn't look too clever. I'm going to put in there. And I feel sorry for the refs. The ref in the stadium, 60,000 people baying for his blood, and he's and he's thinking, what's happening? I don't know what's happening. Madness. That's today's rant over. That was quite quick, within 8 minutes.
We got it in the first 8, yes. But the thing with that, Jim,
it is madness. Madness.
My biggest issue is, of course, I was never confident with the officials in the first place. But then we implemented a cheap, amateurish version of VAR, which I don't think's helped the game. And then when, for example, 2 or 3 weeks ago, where we all heard the mistake being made, but we actually heard the audio, remember? Yeah. And the transparency, that's what you're looking for. You're thinking, right, that's a human error. We know that VAR isn't going to completely remove human error out of the equation. However, when you actually see it in motion, you know that it's a genuine error. You're not thinking there's a conspiracy around it.
What was the game the other week? Was it Livingston were at Ibrox, and they interviewed Martindale after the game. Said, "I don't want to talk about VAR." And he spent a minute and a half talking about VAR. So the managers, the guys that suffer the most from this, let them decide. Give them the 3 appeals. Why not try out something like that, or maybe know that something different, something that will just kind of try and make it a wee bit better, because it's shambolic. And I watched the Spain-Norway game. What was that? Was that last Sunday? 4 minutes. Waiting. And then there's kind of conspiracy theory that, Spain get 2 big decisions in the last week. 2 huge decisions that could have saw them, potentially out of that Euro. So no transparency. The SFA don't ask for the recording, so we don't really know what happened. The referee, he gave offside, or they gave a foul. He put his hand up in the wrong place. He did. That's an open goal, surely, to say, give us the tape. Let's see what happened here. Give us the tape so we know what actually happened here. And to not ask for that, completely and utterly spineless by the SFA.
Yes, and they are though, Jim. And we see every single time when it comes down to it, where you're looking for the authority to have some kind of authority, they don't, and they fail. Officials for the weekend: Nick Walsh is the ref, Andrew Dallas is VAR. So we'll all go into that game really confident that there's going to be no talking points. after the game in terms of decisions made. It's 1 year on, and I'm going to also talk about the fact that Brendan Rodgers has come back to Celtic, and quite a lot's happened during the international break, actually, even though we've not kicked the ball. Lloyd, take me back to when we announced that Brendan Rodgers was coming back as the manager for his second tenure, and tell me, what was your take on it at that time? I've been pretty vocal about it. What was your take when Brendan Rodgers came back to the club?
I think I've stated before, obviously, in the week building up to the cup final, I wouldn't want him back just because he hurt me, and the hurt was still there. But the minute he was announced, it was automatically, right, he's the manager now, you back him. I get that some fans still don't feel that way about him, because obviously we all loved him the first spell, what he brought to the club, the invincible season, double treble, and a part of the treble as well. So the manner he left hurt, but when he came back, it was the best man for the job, basically. Yeah. And look at the run we've been on now. Okay, put out the League Cup, but still unbeaten in the league. Okay, we've had a little bit of progress in Europe with performances, because performances have been good, and it's just fine margins that basically cost those games. But you can see a development in this team already, I think, even though it's still early days under Brendan's tenure.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I think at the time, Jim, I was asked around, the nature of his departure, how he left the club. And I basically just said, success brings your forgiveness, airbrushes that out of the history books, etc., etc. A lot of people disagreed, which is fair enough. But I'm going to ask you the question, Jim, as well as winning games, winning trophies, which we've not done yet, but hopefully it will happen this season. How big a part is the personal kind of touch that he has shown over the last week? We've been speaking quite a bit about the St Rochs game. You may have seen the WhatsApp doing the rounds. Yes, I am mentioning a WhatsApp doing the rounds because it's not a malicious rumour. It comes from a CSC event, which Brendan definitely did attend. And just the way he's been speaking about the club, the nature of his departure, and the legacy, Jim, the legacy that might have been tainted had he not come back to repair it. How big a part are all these kind of smaller, more personal things? How big a part are they playing in the rebuilding of his legacy?
I think the way he left is a bit more nuanced in that, why did he leave? And you look at the circumstances behind why he left. I think if he was able to have signed the players he wanted to sign, would he have left? No, so sure. I think if I'm in his shoes and trying to buy players and getting knocked back and things happening behind my back, I'm thinking, why am I bothering myself here? So I can understand why he left. And if you're going to leave, then you're going to take your team with you as well. Why wouldn't you? So I would look at the circumstances. So it was annoying that he left at the time, because I have no doubt if he'd have stayed, then we would have won 10 in a row. Yeah, we would have won 10 in a row. So yeah. I don't blame him for leaving. I blame him for I blame the circumstances behind why he left. So for me, I'd point the finger at somebody else. I wouldn't point the finger at himself. There's no doubt he's a better manager. I think any manager over time becomes better because they get more experience. They're used to dealing with different circumstances. He was doing it at Leicester, did a pretty good job at Leicester. Maybe that last season wasn't too clever, but again, maybe circumstances. You've lost some of his main players. He's a clever man. He's a good manager. I'll be honest, him coming back, I was kind of 50-50. I thought it kind of lacked imagination a wee bit. I always like to see is just do something new. But I think, as Lloyd said, at the time, if you looked at the candidates that were there, he was the best by a mile. So to get him back is good. I think the win at Ibrox was absolutely pivotal. And where we are now, I think if we'd have lost at Ibrox, we're having a different conversation here. I think, and Mickey Beale is still over the road. So that was massive in the context of the season and massive in the context of the manager. Because people are then saying, well, that's a Brendan masterclass. But again, at the time after the game, I talked about the goal that was disallowed. That was huge. It's all these wee things, one tiny incident, or one big incident in one game. It's maybe you got a manager sacked and our perception of our guy goes up. So I think we're getting there bit by bit. I thought the Kilmarnock game was good. That's the first domestic game I've been to. I thought, you know what, maybe things are starting to click into place a wee bit. We played a lot of good football. Tempo was a bit higher. Well, shooting from distance, we got 2 goals. Shooting from distance, so that was encouraging as well. we're maybe not scoring as many goals as I'd like to see us score. We didn't score as many as we scored last season. Kyogo dropping back. I'm not a big fan of that. I'd rather he just stuck up top, put the ball in the net, wee man, don't keep coming back. So I think we're getting there. We've had an exceptionally tough opening group of fixtures in the league. Tynecastle Sunday, Easter Road next week. If we come out these next 2 games unscathed, then that's a phenomenal start that he's made, and you can't complain. The League Cup thing, I've been criticised on here by saying League Cup, I'm not that bothered. And I'm genuinely not that bothered, but if we were still in the League Cup, maybe that'd have been a chance to maybe give some minutes to play, because the squad is huge. You know, there's guys that were like Home and Bernardo and stuff like that. We don't even talk about it anymore. They need some games. The League Cup might have been good for that. But in the league, he's been great. In Europe, the performances have actually been really good, although the results don't reflect that. So he's made a really good start. He's a very clever manager. He's a good manager. I could have wondered about his motivation for coming back, but he's certainly seen all the right things. So here's hoping that's a good sign for the future.
Yeah, you've said getting there, Jim. I just want to interject from the Celtic discussion to explain my change in surroundings here, and the fact that the sound that I have been advised a couple of times, not a great deal, is not as good as it was back in the other studio. I know that. I'm using different equipment at the moment because the rest of the equipment's lying in boxes, and because I only moved in on Tuesday, you must forgive me. I'll get over the line this week, and then see tomorrow. I'll set it up for the game on Sunday, and we'll be back to normal when it comes to the visual and the audio as well. And eventually, we'll put something on this wall behind us, because I'm not in a police cell. This is not hostage tape. This is a Celtic state of mind. Yeah, we are getting there. You're absolutely right, Jim. And we're going to be talking through some of the selection dilemmas or conundrums that Brendan might be facing. Some in the comment section might not think they are dilemmas. But here we go. Alistair Ross. People need to get over Brendan Rodgers' return. Injuries are clearing up, and now we can push on and hit 5th gear, top of the league, and progressing nicely. I'd agree with that. I would agree with that. I just think it's been in the kind of, for me, it's been in the agenda over the last week or so due to the international break. There's no football, and we start talking about Brendan's other endeavours, i.e. coming along to the St Rochs game and going to a CSC event and talking to the fans and being in amongst the fans. What did you think, Lloyd, of that interview he gave where he name-checked St Rochs and being in amongst the Celtic fans? I mean, listen, I know that Laura Bradburn said, tongue-in-cheek, she was just glad to have him back. Lie to me, baby, I think she said. I might be making that up. However, it might have been lie to me, Brendan. There's no lies there. It's genuine.
Where's this going?
I was just thinking that myself.
Where's this going?
Pull it back on track.
Lie to me, baby.
Lie to me, baby. Yeah, talking about Brendan, and she wasn't interested in what he said as long as we kept winning games. That's what it was, Jim. That was the context.
Is that okay?
However, I fully believe 100% the words. Having spoken to him again, might have mentioned that before, on Sunday, and then hearing that interview, Lloyd, I'm all in. I'm 100% all in here.
I had the Brendan Rodgers mask and everything on in the scarf on. I was watching the interview. I'm just in love with him all over again. I can't help it. Jerry's got competition for Brendan's love, I think. So, the interview was brilliant. And like you said, he came along the Sunday just off a plane straight over to James McGrory Park to meet the fans and obviously get involved with the team and that as well. So, you can't not fall in love with the man all over again just for that.
Aye, definitely. By the way, just you mentioned Jerry, so we'll pick up on that. Jerry is currently up at Celtic Park filming. He's no filming, of course. Our videographer Sean will be doing that side of it. But he's gone up there to capture some content. And being as Jerry is, and Jim knows him better than me, he's managed to charm his way into the stadium. It was meant to be up at Barrowfield,
brilliant,
but he's up at the stadium. And who knows what he's doing, actually. He might end up pulling an interview with Peter Lowell. Who knows what the man is capable of.
If there's one man that can do that, it's Jerry.
He'll be doing the media conference today. As soon as this guy holding a ball as he stands and does his thing. So just to pick up something I said a minute ago, the ironic thing is about any concerns we had about maybe the playing style this year or whatever, is actually not with the defence, where we've had the injury crisis. The guys that have stepped in, Liam Scales obviously, have been really good. We haven't lost many goals.
No.
The issue has been further forward. So even with the injuries clearing up, the injuries that are clearing up are the guys at the back rather than the guys mid to forward. So in actual fact, we've done okay at the back. So I'm not so sure the injuries clearing up is going to make a huge difference. I just think it's a matter of maybe getting used to the manager's style, new style of play, and inverted fullbacks, non-inverted fullbacks, all that kind of stuff. We're just kind of getting there and maybe getting to know each other. But I said with the Ibrox win, that was huge in terms of building confidence and momentum and so on and so forth.
Yeah, I totally. You're right. That is the moment in the season where, as you say, we could be sitting here, and it's a completely different discussion. Jim, the managerial change across the city may not have happened. Now, Ridiculizer comes in with a take on this, more like persevering in futility than madness. Is the person who prays every night, despite their wishes not being answered, mad? I'll just leave that out there. I'm not looking for an answer from you, Lloyd. I'll just leave that one out there. We've also got Double Denim coming in. By the way, we are a podcast for all, open to all, and bring in your opinions. Anyone enjoying the Chris Sutton verbal demolition of Todd Cantwell? I want to talk about it, right? The big man is on fire right now. Chris Sutton joined us last 2 Fridays ago, it was. And on that particular occasion, Lloyd, Patrick Jepson, turned up wearing a white with candy stripe top, which really did resemble a Dunfermline top. And Chris, thank you for the thoughtful nature of that wardrobe malfunction. But yes, he does have Todd Cantwell on toast, but that's no surprising. What is surprising in this day and age, Lloyd, right? And we talk about social media, misuse, etc., within the world of modern football. But why is a professional footballer getting involved in this spat? If that was a Celtic player, we would actually be on this particular show criticising him because it's completely unprofessional, isn't it?
Yeah, of course it is. It's Chris Sutton's doing his job as a pundit, where he's flagging up someone's performance because they're doing all the talking off the pitch and they're not doing it on the pitch. And maybe that's what he should stick to doing. If he wants to be a social media influencer or whatever, then do that role. Don't go on a football pitch and be mediocre, because he's not turned up in big games, and yet their fans all love him because he makes a few wee comments about Chris Sutton and Celtic, and that's fine and dandy. But as long as Celtic are winning and he's not performing, I'm happy.
What's your take, Jim? You have obviously been around before social media, before the internet, before
that jersey,
the whole thing, aye. Before people wore jerseys,
before the start of time.
Before there's no goal nets, there was nothing.
That's right. Before toilets inside our house.
We put a rolled up piece of paper. That's what we did. Yes, that was last Tuesday. Oh, I tell you what, it's occurred to me. I was at the book launch of Matt Corr's new book last night, and this is relevant. Magic Stan and the King of Japan, which is Gordon Strachan's first season in charge. And the reason that just sparked me there was sitting at my table were the 2 oldest living Celtic players, who were Peter Goldie and I think Billy Craig was the name of the guy. Not people I'd have rhymed off like that. So they were even older than me. So what was your question?
Jim, you're taking me on a tangent here because it's always that question, who is the oldest living Celt? And I know for a spell it was Tommy Docherty, who passed away fairly recently, and Sean Fallon, I think, who was it 89, 90? He was at that time.
Well, the guys were announced last night. They were announced last night. One's in his late 80s and maybe one's in his early 90s, something like that. So they were at my table. People, it was bonkers. They were signing jerseys. And you must have thought, this is so surreal. These guys, I think, played in the in the 40s or something like that. I think the concept of actually having replica jerseys at that time would have been just mad. But actually, people were going to sign my jersey. What? So
that's brilliant. That's brilliant. And I remember meeting an old fella in Blair Hall, which is a West Fife village. And he told me he played for Celtic. You know, like if someone just said, I used to play for Celtic, you're not quite sure if it happened. But this old guy started telling me stories about Willie Maley, who was his manager at the time. Unbelievable. And, I love the fact that they were celebrated last night, Jim. And it was great for you not to be the oldest guy at the table.
That was good. Just no more. Just it's a close call. Because when they said the 2 olds, I all stood up.
Brilliant. No, that's great. And I believe that John Hartson was there as well last night.
John Hartson was there. Tommy Sheridan was there. Tommy mentioned Acsom last night. How well were you done last Sunday? Tommy Callahan was also talking. John Fallon was talking about David Potter. And Aye, it was really good. And Matt Coles, I said, give another wee plug, Magic Stan and the King of Japan. So
brilliant. Yeah, there's an interview with Matt on Acsom from a few years ago. Go and check it out on the YouTube channel.
Good guy, good guy.
Yeah, very good guy. And also PJ, his nephew, PJ Corr, who is a coach. He's a very good lad as well. Jim, what is your thoughts on this social media thing with the modern football? I get that players are now looking at themselves as a brand, and there's a level of engagement that otherwise they wouldn't be able to have with fans, etc. But I don't know, is the bad outweighing the good?
Social media isn't real life. Repeat that 5 times. It isn't real life, so don't get involved. I just, I mean, even us doing this just now, we'll get slaughtered just for being here, basically. So you go into social media, you have to expect something's going to happen. Chris Sutton's a clever man. If you're in the media, you're looking for stories, and all you want to do is kind of light some fires and just stand back and see them explode. And that's what he does. And Todd Cantwell was a bit of like a pantomime villain. I think he's a good player. I think in a good team, he's a good player. And yes, maybe, not letting his feet do the talking and maybe talking too much himself. He needs to maybe take a wee step back. And yeah, absolutely, if that was a Celtic player doing that, you'd be saying, keep your mouth shut. You're just setting yourself up. Don't get involved. And I think social media, from a football player's point of view, as long as you keep it short and sweet, if you win a game, thanks for your support. If you lose a game, we're sorry about that, guys. We'll try and do better next time. And you leave it at that. If you get into anything else and you start arguing with people, you've kind of lost the argument altogether, because it can be a nasty place at times. And if you're a famous person, the last thing you want to do is get dragged into having an argument with somebody with like 5 followers. You're thinking, well, why are you letting that get to you? Because you want to be focused on your game. You don't want to be thinking, what are people thinking about me? I'm a footballer. When I'm on that park, I'm constantly on the park. When I'm off the park, I live my life in a certain way. It's a very short career. Don't get involved. There's plenty of time to be TikToking and whatever you want to do, but don't get involved. From Chris Sutton's point of view, he's played this really well. I'll just light a wee fire and I'll just stand back and I'll see what happens next. And if I'm Todd Cantwell, I just move out the way, concentrate on getting into the new manager's team and do my talking on the park. And that's always the evidence. If you're standing at the end of the season with some sort of cup you're holding up, you don't have to say anything. That speaks volumes. Mm-hmm. I once had a phrase, if I can remember it. I've never heard it since. If I can remember what it goes like, if you lose, if you lose, say nothing. If you win, say even less.
Wow, I like that. Yes.
A friend's father told me that story. I told that phrase. I thought this was like 40 odd years ago, and it's always stuck with me. It's such a brilliant phrase. If you lose, say nothing. If you win, say even less, because the winning shows what you've done. If you're standing with a treble at the end of the season, what do you have to say? You don't have to say anything.
No, you're right.
So Todd, say even less.
Yeah, and I think at the club, at that level, you would expect someone to, within the media team, to take someone aside and say, this is not befitting of whatever the club's morals are. I know Celtic, for example, if one of our players, Lloyd, was arguing with Chris Boyd over social media, you would think this is poor. Someone pull him aside and put a stop to it. But yeah, I like that saying, Jim. And we're going to be talking about the Hearts game, the lineup, the potential dilemmas, and then obviously a double header with Atletico Madrid, which is going to be a tough one. Charlie McGarvey agrees with you, Jim, in terms of the players that Brendan wanted to bring in. He wanted McGinn and he got Malumbu. He did, and there was a few other examples of that as well. Scott Mason, hail from soaking and windy Blackpool. Stay safe in the storm in Scotland. Yes, I'll be heading out to Glasgow just after the show. And afternoon Acsom, says Kevin Mullen. Hard few games coming up, but would like to see the likes of Bata getting the odd 20 minutes here or there. Let's see if he's good enough. Hate to see other young talent leaving the club. Right, I'm going to start then, not with the number one. Let's start on the right wing. Okay, there's a chat around Maeda, seeing how obviously he missed the Japanese international games, Lloyd. No update from the gaffer yesterday, at least. Let us know in the comment section if there's been any update today in terms of Maeda's availability. But on the right wing, I think it's an interesting scenario because James McKenzie spoke about Mikey Johnson. Just in mere mentioning Mikey puts a lot of people into meltdown. Rocco Vata's obviously been mentioned as well. Marco Tilio has not yet shown up because of the injury we knew that he had at the time. And then, of course, you've got Palmer, who's been playing out on the left, and you've got Jamesy Forrest, and you've also got Yang. So plenty of options on the wings, Lloyd. But Rocco Vata has been conspicuous by his absence this season. He's not had a look in. And neither is Mikey Johnson. Mikey Johnson's been in the Champions League squad, sat on the bench twice, and he's been doing pretty well on an international level under Stephen Kenny. Right, if Maida doesn't make it, I asked the question yesterday, and my answer was Jamesy Forrest. Who plays right wing for you, Lloyd?
I think with the stadium we're going to and the team that we're facing, I think it would probably be better starting with James Forrest and experience. You've seen Yang at Fir Park and obviously get took off at half time. You kind of wonder, you don't want him to be like another Kobayashi where he's going to go to Tynecastle and Ibrox and all these stadiums and then get hauled off at half time for not obviously performance. So you're kind of looking after the player there as well. Whereas, with James Forrest, what you get, with James, he's got that experience behind him. Obviously, he's not as quick as what he once used to be, but he can still do a job on that wing. Obviously, you've not seen enough of Vata, Tilio. Who was the other one? There was another
Tilio, Vata,
Yang,
Johnson, Mikey Johnson. How could you forget?
I forgot all about Mikey Johnson.
That's the irony of it, isn't it? You've forgotten all about him.
I'm not sure. Yeah.
But the thing is, he does come on, play for Ireland, all right, be it against Gibraltar, but is he going to get ahead of certain players in that team? Because you've seen, obviously, the last few games, Palmer's started to come into a bit of a game. Maeda's practically undroppable in this team. And then, obviously, you've got the likes of Forrest, Yang, all behind him. So Mikey as well. And if you're just like me, you just completely forget altogether.
It's unfortunate, and we've been talking about social media and the impact of that, Jim, as well. I'm going to come back to the right wing position in a moment. But I always remember that story, when you see grown men at the football with hand-painted banners on the bed sheets. And someone said that they always think about the actual scene in the kitchen, on the kitchen table that morning as the man is preparing to leave for the football game and the wee 5-year-old's tugging at his arm and asking his mum, why is daddy painting on the bed sheets? It really is quite a sad scenario. And it's a wee bit like that sometimes on social media, like you said, Jim. The person's just bamming you up. And you could be doing something a lot more positive than responding to it. But yeah, Chris Sutton's always going to put him in his place. Now, Uncle Nobby Steamboat, I'll bring you up just for the name alone, but also just to reiterate, the microphone is lying in a box over there. I will have it set up. I've just not had much time this week, but we will have the full audio set up maybe on Sunday, definitely by next week. There you go. I've said it, which means I've got to do it. A nice positive chat today. Paul DP, absolutely. We are positive people, Jim. We are positivity. And I think that talking about the right wing position, Jim, I want your take on it. I said Jamesy Forrest, but before we get on to it, Lloyd mentioned Kobayashi being spooked at Ibrox, which he was last season. And I get it because Yang seemed not to react that well at Fir Park, which I don't think is up there when you think about the level of toxicity of Tynecastle or Ibrox. Surely, Jim, that the player has to be able to deal with that as a Celtic player. I said it yesterday, but it has spooked Kobayashi, and he's never really been the same. He's never come back from that, has he?
I love that phrase, the level of toxicity. That was good. That was
just
good.
As I was saying it, I almost regretted it just in case I puffed the lines.
No, it was great. It was brilliant. Loved it. And I think it's you got these modern phrases in football, the XGs and Packy. One of my favourites, old one that's kind of dying out, is you need to win the battle first, which I love that phrase. Nobody says it anymore because we've moved into these modern times. Don't have it, but you need to win the battle first before you play football. And Tynecastle was always the place where you need to win your battles first. And they'll be coming to traps and aggressive and all that kind of stuff. Is Maeda definitely not playing?
Definitely not playing. Confirmation yet, Jim. I'm just wondering. Yes.
That's a blow because Tynecastle is ideal. I mean, if he's 11 Maedas, that'd be ideal for Tynecastle because, he does try and win battles all over the pitch. So if he's not playing, and I'm assuming Palmer is a there's a definite starter after the Kilmarnock game. Yeah, the right wing. I'd go with you. It has to be Jamesy Forrest. I don't think you can bring in Tillio because nobody's heard of him. Mickey Johnson, high in confidence, but can he walk into the team? Yang was a bit disappointing at Fir Park, so that was leaves Forrest. Assuming we keep playing 4-3-3, which I'm assuming that's what we'll do, because maybe the odd time you think maybe you should do something a bit different. I don't think tomorrow is when we're going to do it, but would he play a 4-4-2 somewhere? Then maybe, I mean, if you think that's a tough game, something like Iwata or something like that, and put him in a 4 in the middle and play up front with Kyogo or someone like that. I don't think there's any chance of that happening, but it'd be interesting sometime if something like that happened. But you're going 4-3-3, I agree with you, Paul. He has to play Forrest, yeah.
Yeah, the thing with that, Jim, I don't think it's a bad idea, talking about a change in shape, but, you're doomed if you do it. And because obviously if it doesn't, you don't pull it off, then you're the villain. You're the villain.
Always play the best team in your best formation, and the team picks itself virtually apart from that right wing, and 4-3-3 is the position. You change that, you drop points, you get slaughtered. So you don't do that. But, that's not, tomorrow's not the game to do that. Maybe playing at home against Livingston or St John's. But then again, if you're playing at home, then you want wingers, so hey-ho.
Yeah. Now, I mean, the reason that Lloyd forgot about Mikey Johnson is because he's never played for Celtic this season. Chilpil says Mikey is never getting into this team. Right. I know that Brendan Rodgers is a mere mortal, but he has a knack of turning players' careers around. He loves a project. He loves to take someone under his wing and improve and develop their careers. And I think we're already seeing that. Yes, a lot of the credit has to go to the player, but they've got to be given that time to develop and breathe. And he's done that with guys like Matt O'Reilly, I think, is the best example. Liam Scales this season. And there are going to be others. Can he do it with the likes of Mikey Johnson? Now, Brendan Rodgers gave him his debut. He was 18 years old at the time against St Johnstone. He was thrown in for a start, and we beat St Johnstone 4-1 that day. Since then, he's had 2 campaigns where he's played over 20 games for Celtic, which isn't much when you consider he made his debut in 2017. So he's only had 2 campaigns where he's made 20 or more appearances for the club. So injuries have played their part. He was loaned out in Ange Postecoglou's second season, and he played more minutes over in Portugal in a single season than he ever had done for Celtic in a season. So that's a plus. As well as that, he got his international recognition for Ireland, and he's done pretty well for Ireland, yet albeit some of the games are against lesser opposition. He's played 6 games, scored 2 goals, got 1 man in the match. Does he have what it takes to break it into Brendan Rodgers' team? That's the big question. Maybe not this Sunday, Lloyd, but does he have a future at Celtic? That's what I'm asking you. What do you think?
I think if it was going to happen, it would have happened by now. Obviously, he's been plagued by injuries, but it's like you've just rhymed off there his whole Celtic career, and he's played more minutes last season away on loan than what he has his whole time at Celtic. He's what, now 24, 25, I think?
24, yeah.
24, yeah. So really by now he should have kicked on a lot more than what he has done, and I just think maybe it'll be time up for Mikey. I don't know if his contract's up anytime soon, so that might only be one of the reasons to keep him around for the Scottish quota, because he's been an academy trained player. But apart from that, I just don't see him getting into this squad.
Well, we've written players off before, Jim, and I was guilty of doing that with Liam Scales at the beginning of this season. Tony Ralston was written off time and time again. Can there be another success story for you? Do you think Mikey Johnson's time has passed?
I think he's still got a chance. I know he's a bit of a whipping boy for a lot of fans. It was a game. What was the game? It was Ange's first season, Easter Roads, where I think he was in one wing and Jota was in another wing, and we just ripped Hibs apart for the first 30 minutes. Outstanding performance. He doesn't do it often enough, but he hasn't had a run in the team. I mean, you've talked about he was involved in over 20 games, but how much was he involved in those 20 games? And I always think it's difficult when you've got the last 15, 20 minutes of the game to come on and try and do something. I think, and that's the other thing, is that you don't know what goes on behind the scene. Did we try and actively get rid of Mikey Johnson over the summer and nobody was interested in having him? I didn't want to go. Or did the manager say, no, you know what? Hang about, son, because we've got loads of wingers here. So what's the reason for them being there? He's now playing international football. So whether you think he's a good player or not, international football, that's no bad thing. And his confidence is pretty high. So, I mean, if the game goes well on Sunday and he's on the bench, I mean, I would give him the last 20 minutes or so. to see what he's got. Because all it takes is one wee break for your career to kick on, and Liam Scales has kind of shown that. In fact, the person I feel sorry for this season is Welsh. I feel sorry for Stephen Welsh because he came in. I mean, obviously he's waited years for his big chance. He came in against Aberdeen, Aberdeen game, played really well, good victory. Injured, he must be looking at Liam Scales thinking, you know what, that should be me.
Yeah,
I should be playing all these games. Called up for he could have been called up for Scotland. He could have played against France the other night. He could have been in contention for Germany. And that's how quickly things change in football. Just a wee bit of luck. You know, and Liam Scales going from whatever he was, seventh choice centre back to being the main guy. And the thing about Liam Scales, he has to be perfect every game now. Because I thought the manager's comments were interesting again after the Kilmarnock game when he said something like, I can't remember his word, but something like he was the most surprising
player he's seen. I think most surprising player of his career he's seen or something like
that. Of his entire career, yes.
Because I'm thinking, if I'm the manager and I've signed two players, Narowski and Lagerbielka, who I think are really, really good, and there's a guy on the nose that didn't play him, that doesn't look too clever, you know. So maybe that's why, I can't believe how good this guy is. Because if I did know how good he was, would have had to sign these two players over here. So Liam Scales has been outstanding. But I think if he has a bad game, he'll be out straight away because you can't leave two big signings sitting on the bench. That doesn't look too good from a manager's point of view. But what was the question? Whatever it was. Mikey Johnson, I think he's done really well. Again, from a psychological point of view, if you've been there that long and you've got injuries, that's really hard to come back. And to have, you know, I think he was man of the match the other night. I know it was Gibraltar, but it doesn't matter. He played for Ireland and he was man of the match and he's had loads of injuries and he'll be feeling good about himself and he'll be dying to get some sort of minutes. And I think Brendan Rodgers being the manager he is, I wouldn't be surprised if he gets out maybe the last 20 minutes on Sunday if we're doing well. I don't think we'd turn to Mikey Johnson to try and win the game, but I think if we're 2 or 3 goals up, give him 20 minutes. Why not?
Now, I think it's a good point, Jim, because the next internationals are in November, aren't they? Middle of November, right? So if, for example, Mikey Johnson, as you say, he's on a high, he's played against both Greece and Gibraltar, man of the match against the latter, scores a goal. If he comes back to Celtic and he doesn't make the squad, then it's another one of these setbacks, isn't it? Albeit not an injury setback, he's just not able to kick on. The momentum stops. Always think back to a player saying to me that momentum's massive in football. It's like stopping on a steep hill and trying to get the bite right to get started again. So I think that giving him some game time would be really, really a shrewd move by Brendan Rodgers. Shows what you can do, Mikey. Make up your decision. And Pat Morrissey says that we've got a million wingers, but only one James Forrest. Now, James Forrest, Stephen Welsh, Tony Ralston, Liam Scales, that type of player, effectively, Lloyd, could almost be teetering under your first pick. That type of player are great for backup, aren't they? I think, anyway. You know, like, I would much rather have Alistair Johnson, of course. I'd much rather have Carter Vickers. But once they are out the team, if you can bring in someone like Scales, Ralston, Welsh, Forrest, don't know about Johnson yet, but he could become that type of player if he so desires to be a backup for Celtic. Is that good enough for you? Because, I mean, that type of player effectively should be good enough to win most, if not every game in Scotland. Yeah,
league-wise, I think squad players like that, you know, they'll come in, they'll do the job, and they'll help put the points on the board, which eventually will win us the league. But then it comes back to this: do you balance Europe over the league, or do you balance the league over Europe? Are these players good enough to be performing at that European level? And this is the thing with Scales. You've seen it already in the Champions League that he has performed to that level. Other players obviously have done that previously, and it's just one of these things where if you give the players a chance and then they go out on the pitch and prove it, then yeah, they will be good enough. If they don't get the chance, you don't know what you get. And obviously that's the same case with Mikey Johnson, but he's not getting that chance at the moment. Hopefully, if he does get the chance, I do hope that he does well, because I would like to see him not perform at Celtic, because I do support every single player that does play. So that's the main thing. But the squad as is at the moment, your guys like Welsh, Ralston, Scales, they are decent squad players to have about, and if they do the job, then we're all happy.
I think they're vital.
I think
they're
I
vital
think
in the
also,
dressing room as
Paul.
well.
I think also therein lies a dilemma that if Kyogo's not playing, you bring in you say, well, that's quite a decrease in the kind of level of quality in there.
Yeah.
So you want somebody who, if Kyogo's not there, can come in at the same level. But if you do that and doesn't get a game, like Yakimakis didn't get a game, you're going to lose him. So as a manager's point of view, do you want 11 top guys and the next lot are just a wee bit below them who are happy to be there, as opposed to having somebody who's equally as good? Because John Hartson was on last night, and you've obviously interviewed John Hartson before, and he talks about him and Larson and Sutton in the same team. And Martin Hill kept moving Sutton back to midfield to try and accommodate the 3 players in the team, which kind of kept them all reasonably happy. And he was talking about how good Sutton was to do that, because Sutton would rather play centre forward. But he would drop back and do that. So if we did go out there and sign a really top-class striker, and he's not getting a game, how happy is he going to be? So I think that's always a bit of a dilemma that you're going to have, that maybe out with your top 11, the next are just a wee bit less, and you have to accept they're a wee bit less. Otherwise, why would they hang about?
You're right, unless they're on that cusp of, the Odin Holm type, who's coming in at an age where you think to yourself, he might be a long-term replacement for McGregor. I've not seen enough yet, but from what I have seen, I think that he could well be that player. How long is he going to stick around?
You've also got Holm, you've got Bernardo. One's on loan and one's your player. Why would you give the loan player more time than your own guy? Unless he was exceptional, unless you've said the next Messi, you're going to choose Holm over Bernardo, surely, if there's kind of no much in it. So that, again, from a manager's point of view, that's a manager's dilemma, to try and balance all this kind of stuff and have a squad where the quality is pretty high. And what I've always said is that the job of a manager is to go out and sign players who are better than every single player they've got. We think Carter Vickers is good. We need somebody better than him. If you go to the next level, we need somebody better than Kyogo. You need somebody better than, go through the whole team. And I think a disappointing thing at the start of the season, we'd lost something like Jota, who you're thinking, we're not even going to try and get somebody better. We've actually lost Jota, and that's a bit of a disaster. So that's why he's paid the big bucks, Brendan.
To make the decisions, and we can give our views here. It would be interesting if Mikey gets some minutes, but again, we will be talking all about that on match day itself. There's a lot happening around about the game. There's quite a few injured Hearts players. Tony Cassidy actually comes in to talk about, not sure if your man Cochrane is fit again. Guy likes a foul out of left back. He does, but he's not on the list I've got here of injuries. Kingsley Halkett, Mackay Atkinson, and of course the long-term injury to Craig Gordon as well. But let's focus on the Celtic side. Ticket allocation, obviously we've been talking about that as well. It's ridiculous that there was more Celtic fans at the St Rochs game than there will be at Tynecastle, Lloyd. We're losing the bite of the away day. We've got a really good, we actually do have a sought-after product in this country. But time and time again, we just keep shooting ourselves in the foot as a football authority and as a sport in this country. It's all there in front of us, and we just keep ruining it with daft decisions, looking after your own backyard, etc., etc. What's your thoughts on the allocation debate?
Yeah, the allocation debate's an interesting one for me, because obviously you've got your loyal fans who end up going to every single home and away game, who some of them will end up missing out just because the allocation's been cut, which to me I don't think is very fair. But at the same time, if the home team's selling out every part of their stadium, and then you see on Sunday there's not an empty seat, then you can't complain. But if you're sitting in that stand on Sunday and you're spotting 30, 40, 100, 200 empty seats, they could have been sold to Celtic fans. And that's the bit that kind of annoys me a little bit about it, because obviously you want a decent product, you want more away fans in to kind of build up the atmosphere, because obviously we've all been at stadiums. You enjoy seeing a large portion of away fans giving their team support, and then a large portion of home fans giving their team support.
Yeah.
But when it's mainly outnumbered by home fans and you've only got 500 away fans stuck in a corner, it's not really great, is it?
No, and we've seen that. That was always the big argument. And JP said yesterday, if the home fans are keeping Celtic fans out because they've got their own fan who wants a ticket, you get it. You absolutely get that, right? So. But, that's not been the case over the piece. And I think that when, these clubs then come to Celtic and we give them a reduced capacity or no allocation, then it just looks like tit for tat. But we've got to look after our own business and our own club as well. I'm going to be looking at the potential starting 11 for Celtic at the weekend. There's quite a few in there, Jim, that seem to pick themselves. I mean, the back five, for example, there's maybe a dilemma at centre half. I think it would be terribly harsh for Liam Scales not to get the nod. Brendan Rodgers was talking about Mike Nawrocki. Do you wait until Scales has a run of form before he is dropped? Because it would be really harsh at this moment in time, would it not?
Team picks itself, surely. If it's 4-3-3, team picks itself, apart for the right wing that you said there. He's not going to change the team to do that. And he's not going to leave out Scales. I think it's unfair to actually even talk about Scales because he's one of our best players. So, yeah, the team picks itself. In terms of the allocation thing, just to get back to that, I mean, I don't go to away games anymore, so I don't have any skin in the game, whatever that's called. But basically, and obviously the Celtic fans going to Tynecastle for years, decades even, and it's really disappointing. But you need to take the emotion out of it. It's just business at the end of the day. I mean, if your Hearts have to do what's best for them, whether it's financially or whether it's for their fans' point of view, and that's entirely up to them. And there's nothing you can do about that. And I don't buy into the bit about the spectacle thing. I don't, as a season ticket holder at Celtic Park, I'm no better a fan than anyone else. But what I do expect is I expect Celtic Football Club to look after me and the 50,000 Celtic season players and look after our interests, not because of Sky, not because of anyone else. And I think a couple of times ago on the comment, somebody commented on me saying when I said I think the Glasgow Derby should be home fans only, and he called that pathetic and embarrassing. So he automatically becomes a clown, as far as I'm concerned, to say something as ridiculous as that. And because the opinion, and football's all about opinions, that opinion was based on decades of going to that game.
Yeah. And
comparing it to the game a year past February, home fans only, which we've all talked about. And it's like getting spam for years and all sorts of things. You get steak and you think, hold on, we've got some steak here. Right. And I posed the question to the clown, were you at the game? And he never came back, he never responded to that. But he talked about it's a worldwide spectacle. Who cares if it's a worldwide spectacle? You do what's best for your own fans. I used to watch El Clasico years ago. I've got no idea who was in the ground for Real Madrid and Barcelona. Didn't care. Not do me. I don't pay it to them. But the fans that go along to Celtic Park, they're the people who keep Celtic Football Club going. So the duty of the club is to those fans. If I'm a Hearts fan, I'm thinking the same thing. I don't want Celtic fans or fans of other clubs coming to my ground. Stop them coming. Fine. We'll do that. And it's no slight on Celtic or no slight on the Celtic fans. It's their club and it's a business and it's up to them. And if they want to forgo money to do that, that's entirely their choice. And it's disappointing from a Celtic fan's point of view not to go in. But, nobody's picking on us. That's just the way it is. And in Scottish football, as you said, it's very popular. Of course, it's very popular. But it is what it is. If you're a Kilmarnock fan, how many fans did he get? 4,000 or 5,000 maybe tops at a game. How many does that stadium hold? Don't know. 12,000? I have no idea. I should know these things.
12 to 15.
So it's always going to be half empty. It's always going to be a third empty. You see games in sports scene, highlights. Kilmarnock played St Mirren the other week. It was empty.
I know.
But there's nothing you can do about that. Unless you let kids in for nothing, unless you do something different, unless you jazz up the product by doing something different, it's just the way it is. And I've got no issue with clubs deciding we'll let all the away fans in or we'll let no away fans in. I think there's bigger issues like safety and stuff like that. And I think if there's only 600 or so Celtic fans going to the game on Sunday, I think there's a kind of safety issue in there. So would you take, similar to Ibrox, would you take 600 tickets or take nothing? It's maybe better to take nothing at the end of the day. But I don't have an issue with, I know that was a bit of a tangent there because the question was about the team. I think the team picks itself for Sunday.
No, but Jim...
That's my second rant at 53.
You done one at the beginning and one at the end. It's the
like to bookend it.
Absolutely. But there's a few points I want to pick up on. The first one, spam to steak. Absolutely loved that. But the other one, clowns. I mean, as soon as he mentioned clowns, I was thinking some of the famous clowns from the past, Lloyd and, Pennywise, for example. as a clown that,
That's the first one that came in my head.
You wouldn't want to call him out on a Celtic podcast, but whoever the clown is, give us a shout. You might want to respond. This is your right to reply. You might want to respond in the comment section, but I think...
Clown time. Yeah, it's clown time. Absolutely.
I think that you hit the nail on the head. The priority actually is the safety of the Celtic fans, and that's the reason why we didn't take the Ibrox allocation, and the club made that clear. It was the safety of the fans and also the experience of the fans. How could you enjoy the game when you were, in that tiny wee area thinking, am I going to get hit with a missile here? So the fan experience and the fan safety was an issue. When does that become an issue at Tynecastle? Well, if we just keep getting under 600 tickets, I'm sure soon enough, Lloyd, the club will knock it back. I remember the first time I ever went to Tynecastle to watch Celtic. I had already been to watch the Scotland under-16s playing Portugal in the semi-final of the World Cup. That actually happened. And it happened at Tynecastle. We won 1-0, and it was a Celtic player, Brian O'Neill, who scored the goal, a header. A great Scotland side that was, managed by Craig Brown. They got to the final, and we know what happened with Saudi Arabia. But in the Portugal midfield that day was Louis Figo as a 16-year-old. And, Scotland didn't look out of place. We won the game. And the first time I went to see Celtic at Tynecastle, it was 3-1 to Hearts. Tommy Coyne scored for Celtic. We were absolutely rotten. We're talking early 90s, Jim. You might have been at the game. And it was the match, the first time I heard the Celtic fans singing Always Look on the Bright Side after Hearts scored the third goal. It was something we were doing at the time. We're almost saying we're rubbish and we know it. You remember that game?
I've not been at Tynecastle in years, but the last time I was at Tynecastle, the entrance to Tynecastle or the way into Tynecastle is a death trap. Is that still the case? I've not been there in years.
I think it is still the case.
It's really condensed and it's squashed in there, and there's no many turnstiles, whatever. So that's still harking back to the old days. That hasn't improved any. So people talk about the all-season stadium. Actually, outside a number of stadiums isn't too clever.
No, you're right. And it's these things that, again, Jim, the priority should be the punter that's buying the ticket and going in. You've got to look after them. Going to run through a few of these comments before we wrap up for this afternoon. Double Denim, happy Friday, Hoops. Loving the positivity in the comment section. Hoping for a good result and strong performance against Hearts. Player of the month, Matt O'Reilly. Yeah, that was announced yesterday or today. And international scorer Kyogo to drive us forward. And I think O'Reilly, although he didn't play for Denmark, I think it's another step in his development to get into that squad against San Marino. Jungle Lion, 2 massive league games in Edinburgh coming up. Yep. 2 wins in Celtic are set up nicely for the Christmas run. We were going to talk about the Atletico Madrid double-header, but we'll probably come back to that at the early part of next week. Robert Ingram, it shows a great lack of judgment and humility. Players should avoid the argumentative, opinionated accounts. Yet social media is a hotbed for that type of chat. And we've got Martin Davey coming in with a prediction for a Celtic 3-0 victory on Sunday. I'd love to see that as well. Brendan Monaghan, always a pleasure to see you, sir. We need a top-class striker in January, as from January the 12th to February the 10th, the Asian Cup will be taking place. Maeda, Kyogo will be away. Right. That is a good point. Do you disagree with Jim at all on his predicted 11? Lloyd, is there any low bowlers that you would throw into that, do you think?
Nah, nothing at all. I've already done it in my FIFA career, EAFC career mode, where I've picked the exact same 11 that started to come
I've no idea what you just said there. What was that you just said?
I forgot Jim, you were me back then.
Yeah, that boy speaking Russian. What was that?
I know. And Tony comes in with a classic. But you know what? Somebody shared something with me on Twitter the other day. They had taken 1 second from every episode of Breaking Bad and put it into a compilation clip. I don't know where people get the time. I really don't, right? But I am looking forward to someone doing that with Jim's appearances over the last 4 years, where at some point he just says, "What was the question?" And then having a whole compilation of them, Jim. I want that. That's the content I want to see.
That's toxicity. Don't go there.
Toxicity. The caveat of toxicity. Yes. Give me a wee prediction, Lloyd. How's it going to go on Sunday? What do you see happening for Celtic?
I see a Celtic win. I see a 4-0 victory, and I see Kyogo getting 2 goals.
Oh, I love that. Honestly, there's positivity running through the comments and all the.
And also on that note, I see the Celtic women's team beating Rangers as well just beforehand.
Oh, that would be nice.
As they played on Sunday.
That reminds me, I think that was the initial reason why Jerry went up to Barrafield today. He's wangled on his way into Celtic Park. He's meant to be interviewing Fran. Who knows who he's going to interview? I can't wait to see the content. Jim, but that's what we expect from our friend Jerry. What about yourself, Jim? A wee prediction for Sunday, please.
3-1.
3-1 Celtic. I'm going to go 2-1. I'm going to go 2-1, right? I think that it's tight. The fans are massive for Celtic when they're not there. I do think that it affects us, which is the reason why I'm never too keen on having no allocation. I think that they are the 12th man, as cliched as it sounds, but it's going to be a tight game, 2-1. 600 players for Hearts who might otherwise have played, but I do think they'll be up for the fight. They'll be up for the battle. I accept us to get the 3 points. We will be there half an hour before kickoff. Join us on Sunday for all the matchday coverage. And if I've got the job done tomorrow, I'll be doing it with the proper mic and all that jazz. And in the coming weeks, we will also have a proper backdrop as well. Thank you all for getting involved. It's an absolute pleasure every single day talking about Celtic. Thank you to Lloyd and Jim for joining me on a Celtic State of Mind.
Cheers, Paul.